Of their 29 games in Croke Park, Dublin have played into Hill 16 in the first half on 22 occasions, and they won each time, which is, I thought out of 29, 22 is a lot. I was saying, how the hell did this happen? So he said, for a team in the 2000s who were known for favouring playing into Hill 16 in the second half, Dublin have started each of their senior football championship outings in Croke Park this summer facing into the Hill 16, with Cluxton winning the toss at least 2 occasions.
Mickey Hart here, you're listening to the GAA Hour Football Show.
The GAA Hour with Colm Parkinson is brought to you by Paddy Power, home of the Money Back Special.
I'm not finished yet, it took me a long time to get here.
We're finally here, lads. The final we all wanted. No offence, Conor.
Thanks,
It's Dublin and Kerry, lads. All the history you want. They've pretty much... I don't know why we're excited about two teams that have dominated our game for as long as they have, but they have. They've won the vast majority of All-Irelands that's ever been won. Kerry have been shading it, but in recent years, obviously, Dublin are much stronger. So, like I said, for a long time, Kerry have a puncher's chance. Let's talk about what kind of a punching chance that is. Is it they're still 1-5 in an All-Ireland final, Kerry, which just shows the strength of Dublin, which is absolutely unbelievable. I don't know if you're superstitious, but I was reading this. John Fogarty had a stats-based piece in the Examiner, which I will be referring to a lot during the top of this show. I'm nearly going to say John Fogarty has sponsored the top of this show. He said in the 2017 League final, the Division 1 final, Kerry brought Dublin's 36-game unbeaten record across league and championship to an end. This Sunday, they aim to stop Jim Gavin's team from ending their defeatless championship run of 36. So not a good one. In 17, like Kerry have had Dublin's measure in plenty of games. This is what's given, like I know this is a new Kerry team, but it's given people just that hope that this will be a good final. That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah, like I think they've played 11 times, or the last 11 times they played in the league. Kerry beat them 4, like, which is a good return. Like,
yeah, for this Dublin team, yeah.
Yeah, so like 5 games Dublin couldn't beat them in the league, and then Kerry obviously, they've never been brushed aside by them in the championship.
No, not in big games. 13-16 were classics, 15 final. They made Dublin... Alan Brogan got the late point to, you know, make Dublin cover a one-score game.
Dublin were always treating those league games seriously as well. Tralee this year, going back even the league final as well. It's not as if they were playing like second, weekend teams or anything like that. Kerry have properly put it up to them. I'd kind of forgotten about that. I was really I wasn't giving Kerry much of a puncher's chance, but now it's bringing me right around.
Oh, they have a puncher's chance. Who's going to be the puncher though? Who is it? Tommy Walsh. We're going to talk about that in part 2. The managers have been playing the age-old game of building up the opposition and playing down your own chances. So Peter Keane, who's an expert at this, says there's probably been a bit more talk about Dublin than us. We've probably just been a bit of a sideshow in all of this, playing the usual game. And he went on, we're going in with a team who don't have a whole pile of experience. As you know, there's fellas trying to say that we do. We don't. He says, you've some guys who have 4 or 5 games for Kerry. That's fair enough as well. I understand that. He's pointing that out. We're very inexperienced, playing it down. 9 of Kerry's starters for the semi-final win over Tyrone haven't played in an All-Ireland final, which, there's no doubt they're inexperienced. Jim Gavin was having none of this. So he was saying the last day out against Tyrone, 4 points down at half-time and different questions asked of them, and they reacted in the appropriate way and finished with a plum. It's a real Jim Gavin word, isn't it? Plum. What a wonderful human being he is. He says, that's not a team that's developing, that's a serious team. Now, what all this kind of stuff does, neither of them really are wrong, I suppose. But we can see the game that they're both playing.
Yeah, Jim Gavin never talks about Dublin in those terms, like talking Kerry up more. I'd be interested to know how much it washes in Kerry. Like, you can't really play down the Kerry senior football team when you're involved with all the animals down there. Like, you're sort of expected to win. The only difference is I think everybody in the country realises that Dublin are the favourites. Even I'd say the hardest Kerry fan will understand that Peter Keane is going in here with one hand tied behind his back because they're playing Dublin. Yeah, no,
there's no doubt. I was at a wedding in Kerry last Friday, and they're very, in fairness, for what I always love about Kerry is the kind of cockiness, but not arrogance, not over the top cockiness, but even that cockiness couldn't come out. And one friend in particular who I total never sees Kerry beaten, and he's like, really? Oh, we have to get our matchups right. Everything has to go right, and it's like just almost going, this is really, really far out All Ireland win. Now we could do it or whatever, but at the same time, so the 5 in a row. Not sure there's as much hype about the 5 in a row this week that I thought there would be.
You failed in your campaign.
Dublin, the campaign only lasted a week, didn't it? I thought more comments would have come out over the summer that we could have reacted to, but not too much has. Obviously, This is John Fogarty as well. Cluxton, Philly McMahon, Johnny Cooper, James McCarthy, Keane O'Sullivan, Brian Fenton, Kieran Kilkenny, Dean Rock. They're going for the 5 in a row. They've played a part in all 5 finals. Cluxton, Philly McMahon and Kilkenny have experienced every minute of all 4 finals. Whether Philly does this weekend remains to be seen. He could, obviously, depending on Tommy Walsh being selected or not. Then you have the never beaten gang, I'm calling them. So Brian Fenton, as we know, has never been beaten in the championship. He's never lost a senior championship match for Dublin. The biggest game he lost was that league final for Kerry. And I keep referencing that. It's not that long ago, and that was a battle, and it was a high-scoring pointed game, and Kerry came out the right side of it. Other players who have never lost a match for Dublin, when you think about it, Brian Howard, Conor Callaghan and Ninth Scully have never lost a match for Dublin.
That's crazy.
When you think about it, lads,
Yeah.
like they need, as human beings, to experience a loss to be more rounded sportsmen, right?
I remember feeling so sorry for Brian Fenton that league final that he did lose. Like, Jesus God.
I met him down in Dingle not long after that, and I says, "How are you holding up?" And he was
Still in a bad
laughing.
way.
He's a real nice fella. He was laughing, you know. He said, "Oh, look, I'll have to get over it," and he was a bit more relaxed. But at the same time, like, that was his first ever loss. You know, so that's it. Here's one that really caught my attention, again from John Fogarty. Under 20, and this really rattled me, because when we played Dublin, the whole idea was not to let Dublin play into the hill in the second half. So, like, and this is what teams have to deal with. And a huge advantage Dublin have in Croke Park is that, you number one, keep the hill quiet when they get behind them. Don't let Dublin finish into the hill. That's what they want. Dublin don't have to deal with any of this kind of stuff. They just want to win the toss so they can. But this is what we always was in our head, and Micko would say this, and it's don't let Dublin play the second half into the hill. So you take the canal, let them play in the first half. But John Fogarty has some stats here which were interesting. Of their 29 games in Croke Park, Dublin have played into Hill 16 in the first half on 22 occasions, and they won each time, which is, I thought, out of 29, 22 is a lot. I was saying, how the hell did this happen? So he said, for a team in the 2000s who were known for favouring playing into Hill 16 in the second half, Dublin have started each of their senior football championship outings in Croke Park this summer facing into the Hill 16, with Cluxton winning the toss at least 2 occasions. So he's been choosing now to start into the hill. What's the psychology of this? I don't get it. I thought the hill like sucks that ball in the second half and like the cop.
Yeah, this to me seems like a completely conscious decision, and something like a completely Jim Gavin to do, to take away any hint that the hill has anything to do with their success at all, to the fact that it'll never be mentioned in the dressing room where, like, you know, you win the toss, you play into the hill. Forget that completely. Take it away, like, you know, take it away completely by
an unknown.
Yeah, and consciously deciding to play into the other end for a team that was like, but all teams.
No, actually, now it's a controllable rather than a gamble.
Yeah. But like all teams throughout, like, you know, Liverpool play into the cop. Like various famous teams have famous ends that they like to, you know, to tap into, and Dublin were so well known for that. So for that to change so completely, and I hadn't realised that until I saw the numbers, and that's mad. Like 22 out of 29. Yeah, that's crazy. So but like again, Jim Gavin, you never hear anything about that until somebody's delved into the stats.
Into the stats, and is that the thing? I actually think your analysis of it there is perfect. I was thinking, would they be playing silly beggars with the other team, and they would have prepared for this, and now we're going to, you know, take that off you as well, you know. I don't know, but that might not happen. I think you're right. I think they want to control the controllables. Jim Gavin has no control over the toss, so let's not put our eggs into having to finish into the hill, and let's control. Croke Park is Croke Park.
But it's also exactly what Gavin would like his team to do. He doesn't want them to be feeding off emotion. Like, so the idea of playing into the hill is to get that sort of adrenaline rush that you get with all the fans. He wants them going through the process, and like, you know, if you're relying on that, then you're relying on emotion, and Dublin don't rely on emotion, they rely on the process. That's it. So like, it's taking that away completely, like Conor saying, and it's just focusing on their jobs.
It's crazy. So imagine Jim Gavin sitting in Croke Park in the Pillar Caffrey era as Kieran Whelan is walking down the hill and clapping. I'd say he was just thinking, I must fix this. So I thought it was an interesting interview, Paddy Andrews, and we slagged the Dublin players off for having, you know, keeping their cards close to their chest, and they have a media manager who I wouldn't be a big fan of. But he was talking about the time, it was around the table thing at the Dublin Press Day, and he was talking about the time when Dublin were in their 5th, they won their 5 in a row provincial titles, and Paddy Andrews held 5 fingers up I think it was to a camera or something like that, or to a crowd, and he says, I don't think I'd do that celebration again. No shit, Paddy, you wouldn't. He says, that's 10 years ago. It's been a long time. Pat's first year that year. Look, there's no way you could have seen. He says, we went on to get a pretty bad beating a couple of weeks later by Kerry in the All-Ireland quarter-final, and he was a cornerback back then. So this was 2009, the startled earwigs year, where Dublin were bridesmaids every year and couldn't get over the line. And he was cornerback, and I thought this was just the psychology that they've gotten over now, is that Colm Parkinson came running into him, and I think it was somebody else, Henry was marking Gooch, and he got injured, and Colm Parkinson came running over and says, you're on Gooch now. And Paddy Andrews' reaction was, I was like, the Gooch? Do you know what I mean? Whereas that was the psychology of Dublin, almost a fear of other teams, where that's completely gone now.
Yeah, and the fact that like it would never happen these days, that like Paddy Andrews would know if David Henry was playing under Jim Gavin and he got injured, he'd know automatically that he has to go on the Gooch. You know, at the start I wasn't sure whether he knew he was injured, and he was just told before the game, and I was like, geez, that's such a lack of preparation. But again, just going back to the celebration thing again, that's completely gone out and went out of them under Pat Gilroy, and then obviously under Jim Gavin, which is why I think I mentioned here as well, to be so kind of taken aback by the fact that somebody like as cool as Brian Fenton, you know, kind of celebrated so ecstatically after getting that goal against getting that goal.
See, I'm not sure if that was a celebration rather than an outpouring of emotion. A celebration is looking for something from the crowd. He didn't really do that. I think to celebrate is to look to the crowd. It was a private celebration. Do you know what I mean? I think you're allowed a private celebration.
Because Henley looked to have saved it as well. I thought it was a bit more relief because it sort of deflected into the net, didn't it?
I think it was more we've put this Mayo crowd to bed.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's
finally,
finally,
Even though they beat them all the time, but sorry, Conor.
It's all right.
Pat Gilroy is like, a lot of people credit him for changing that culture completely.
He got rid of Andrews not long after, and Andrews in this interview, it was a really good interview, look back and saying he was probably right. I wasn't living as maybe not living as I should. I wasn't taking it as seriously as I should, and that 5 fingers up would have pissed Pat Gilroy off. Pat Gilroy changed all that culture, lads. He won that All-Ireland in 11 against a brilliant Kerry team, and while Jim Gavin has continued that on and made it even probably more extreme, I don't think it should ever be underestimated what Pat Gilroy did.
No, I think he started it all. Like, you know, he's like the Vince McMahon, if you use a wrestling analogy, but like he got rid of Mossy Quinn as well, which is his club mate, so that's obviously a big decision to make. There's stories that he sent Connolly home from a training camp in Spain, and you know how Dublin people think of Jeremy Connolly, and if he's doing this stuff, that's like immediately changing the sort of stereotype that they're these superstars. Like, you know, Dublin were always seen as the city superstars.
I'll pull you up on Mossy. Mossy won the All-Ireland in 11. I think Mossy retired after that, did he? I don't think he got rid of him as such.
Maybe it was a chat. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe it was. I don't know. I don't remember being any kind of talk at that time they were getting rid of him. I think Mossy got his All-Ireland medal and was a sub and kind of maybe had enough of it. Went on to do not too badly for Vincent's as well. So that early retirement, early-ish. But I think that was it. So anyways, Paddy Andrews, Dublin player, with a good interview. Then we have MDMA, Michael Dara McCauley. He was on it as well, and I think Michael Dara tries to sell himself as, you know, as a bit of a dude who I just play a bit of ball, man. I don't like to talk about it, you know. Like, don't be annoying me with GAA talk. You know what he said, fella? Because I know he said it to me before in person on a night out. Then I started asking him about his bar, and he didn't want to talk about that either. So I just wonder how to get onto a level with this fella at all.
Maybe it was you who was the problem.
So he says it's hard for you he's asked about what makes the Dublin team special. He says it's hard to put your finger on it. The group is an impressive group of human beings, in that I think people are aware that there's a higher purpose than themselves or the team. Who calls another person a human being? So I was asking about this on Twitter, and Brendan Rodgers does, Steve McLaren does, and Jim Gavin does, and Michael Dara obviously taking his lead from Jim Gavin, and people are now human beings. And then Robbie Kiley, who plays for Tip, said, well, maybe he's being politically correct and he doesn't know their sexual orientation. And I just say for Colm, you're two very nice human beings who I share the studio.
Thank you very much.
It sounds like something Joe Schmidt might say as well.
Oh, Schmidt could be in that mix too,
I was reading, Malachy Shirkin did a piece on the Dublin media night in general, and he said that Michael Dara McCauley is normally great value and stuff, but he struggled a little bit during this interview, to the extent that at the end of it he called the media manager, your mate, and he goes, he just shouted up to him, he said, this is the worst interview I've ever done, you'll be very happy.
I saw that on Twitter. Very good, very good. I think, listen, they're playing the game with him. They're like, to be fair, like, calling other people human beings. I'd say in a weird way the Dublin players play little games with this stuff.
Yeah.
Just kind of get a human beings in the... I don't know. Like maybe I'm overanalyzing it or overthinking it. I don't know. But anyways, I wouldn't be too hard on any of them because they're playing the game that's been asked of them by their media manager, whatever you want to call him. Finally, we're going to just mention that Andy Moran has retired, because Andy Moran retiring on All-Ireland final week is a disgrace.
I thought we were doing
it's
45 minutes on this. It's
completely outrageous. So you've got 30 seconds. There is no one allowed in this show outside of Dublin and Kerry. So I'm giving you 10 seconds to sum up Andy Moran, and we'll talk about Andy Moran. Not next Monday. He's no business on that one either, but the following Thursday we'll properly cover
We'll
Andy
do
Moran.
proper tribute. Okay. What can I say about Andy? Just proper legend. You know, what like helped elevate the standards of Mayo football to what they are now, along with a couple of key people like James Horn, etc. And it's been like completely reinvented himself from a half forward to a wing forward to one of the best.
Okay, we're out of time. We're going to talk about this.
As always said, he's a gentleman as well. So
he's a pure gent. Yes, shouldn't have announced his retirement in All Final week, but we'll forgive him, and you'll be on the show next Thursday. We can eulogise about him. Right, we'll be back and we'll talk about the match. Okay, lads, as we like to do here in the analysis section is we like to kick her off with a good old matchup. Right, so we're going to do the Kerry matchups first. Well, I am, and you can tell me whether you agree with me or not. And these are the big ones. So Tadhg Morley's going to pick up Conor Callaghan.
Yes.
Jason Foley's going to pick up Mannion. Jack Barry's going to start and he's going to pick up Fenton. Tom O'Sullivan's going to follow Kilkenny. And Gavin White is going to go over onto Jack McCaffrey's wing and mark Jack McCaffrey in the same manner as Paul Durcan did. Now, alternatively, Stephen O'Brien does have the work rate to track Jack McCaffrey and cause Jack McCaffrey problems, you know, the other way. So I'm unsure whether to go with the conservative Gavin White, let's try and stop Jack, or would you say let's maybe focus on Jack's defending and have Stephen O'Brien have the fitness and the speed to follow him, but also ask him a lot of questions, do you know, on the other side. So
yeah. Is Stephen too important as an attacker to have him worrying about that? Like I know Durcan was great.
He does a lot of work. Yeah, he does a lot of work.
Yeah.
I take your point.
Like Durcan's was a bonus when he was attacking, and McCaffrey wasn't even picking up Durcan for a lot of the game. Like, you know, he was playing zonally and stuff like that. So yeah, if I was Kerry, I would keep him away from.
I'm
just thinking about that. I don't think Dublin will allow that anyways, because I think John Small will be given the Stephen O'Brien job, you know. And
I think that Kerry they've been lining out Brino Bjuglig, I think, at 10. They've lined out even Shane Enright at 10, knowing that they're going to be picking up somebody. So I'd imagine that they'll go the Gavin White route and have him pick up
similar enough ones. But we think Jack Barry probably will start on Fenton, and the plus of having him in there is obviously he can compete against the wall, because he's a monster of a man, and he's no problem sacrificing his game just to follow Fenton, and he has the physique and the physicality and all those things. So I think that's almost a guarantee. On the Dublin side then you'll have Fitzsimons picking up Clifford. I think Cian O'Sullivan will pick up Geaney. John Small will pick up Stephen O'Brien or Sean O'Shea, and then you'll have Johnny Cooper on Spillane. Now, whether Spillane starts or not, we don't know if Tommy Walsh starts, which I think he should. This throws Dublin's matchups into disarray. You know what I mean? It rips up the script. That's why I think he should start, because now Fitzsimons will probably have to go over, or maybe Philly McMahon comes on to have the strength to match with Tommy Walsh. But here's the thing: play Tommy Walsh, have Philly McMahon marking him, bring Tommy Walsh out for kickouts, let him compete against the wall. So now you have David Moran, you have Walsh, you have Jack Barry, monstrous men. Throw in Jack Sherwood there. Philly wouldn't compete with him on kickouts. Then get him back in. Alternate him in and out, but let him help against the... You know what I mean? Let him help against the wall. When he came on against Tyrone, he caught a fantastic kick out. That's his main strength. I think there's a huge case for... And again, it throws... what would Dublin not want? To have to deal with this headache. They would want Tommy Walsh running on like Kieran Donaghy in 15. They're already 5 up, the game's gone away, and here's Donaghy and he's going to try too much, and now a few lumpy balls will go in and Rory O'Carroll has spoiled them, and do you know, that kind of a way? Yeah. I think it asks a lot of questions of Dublin's matchups if Walsh starts.
Yeah, it's a real dilemma, and it's
a dilemma, yeah.
Like you're talking about Cian O'Sullivan and Philly McMahon, neither of whom started in the last game, so straight away 2 people have to come out, and Davy Byrne's probably one, but then you're already talking about Jack McCaffrey, John Small, James McCarthy, they have to play as well. So I don't know then who...
James McCarthy could pick up Tommy Walsh either.
He did in the league.
He did it, yeah, he did. He went in on him in the league.
After I think he was in on Johnny Cooper.
He's not that comfortable on the edge of the square either though, lads. I know James will give you an honest effort everywhere, but it's not his strong point either. And you're taking James McCarthy's driving runs out of the game. It's a win-win for Kerry, no matter what way you look at it.
Yeah, my only thing is like I think that like I get what you're saying in terms of like Kerry having to give something to think about from the start. I also think they're going to have to give something to think something to think about during the game as well. And Tommy Walsh is their trump card from the bench. And I would say, like, going back to the Mayo game, James Horn brought on Andy Moore and Kevin McLaughlin way too late. By the time they came on, the game was over. And I was just thinking...
But that was over 12 minutes after second half. When do you bring Walsh on?
I know, I was envisioning a scenario, because I was thinking... I said to somebody I was beside at half-time in the Mayo game, it's like, you should bring Andy Moore and Kevin McLaughlin on now. We're on top. Try and capitalise now. Give them something to think about now. So I was trying to envision a scenario where Kerry are in touch at half-time, doing something similar to Mayo did, and then just giving something to think about immediately on half-time, and then throwing their plans into disarray to a certain degree. But then the problem is that the game was gone from Tyrone, before half time last year. If the game is gone from Kerry, well then that substitution is null and void.
It's null and void, so start him.
Yeah,
like I honestly think against Dublin you have to be in the game at half time. You have to play your strongest. Imagine being a 1-5 outsider and gambling on bringing on a lad in the second half.
Yeah.
Like, let's look at the history of Dublin matches. They're over at that time, and then you've a fella on, and the pressure at the end then is you lump it to him and you hope for a flick on goal. You don't play through the lines and give Tommy Walsh the ball he wants, which he can win a diagonal ball in the air, but he also can win it in front
too, yeah.
And now he has his man guessing, well, I can't mark him from the front, he's going to catch it over my head. I'll have to mark him from behind. Tommy Walsh will win it out in front. So, I think the whole forward line should be built around him. I really do. I think it's what Dublin wouldn't necessarily want.
Yeah, and the beauty of Walsh is that you can change your game anyway with him there. You can put him in like you did in the league within the full forward, and then James McCarthy struggling in there, or you can bring him out to midfield around there like you did against Tyrone. So you don't necessarily need to bring him off the bench to get that impact. You can just deploy him in different areas.
And it's a headache. Right, so you say Gavin White, or we'll say Gavin White's going to try and take care of Jack McCaffrey, and you've James McCarthy now gone in full back. That's their driving force, lads. That's their engine. That's what sets up all their attacks. Now you've Jack Barry standing goal side of Fenton. You've taken away 3 of their big main men that punch holes, right? That create that overlap that Kerry going man for man are going to completely be scared of. Now you've Jack McCaffrey, if Gavin White can track him and he's got the speed, and now you've James McCarthy in full back. I think for that reason, because let's be honest, if things aren't going well for Dublin, who punches a few holes? James McCarthy. He's that, you know what I mean? He's that leader. We've seen it time and again.
Yeah, it's him and McCaffrey. Yeah, and if you can
him and McCaffrey. Yeah, they're the ones that provide these moments of inspiration. Now the crowd are behind us. Often when things are going a little bit flat for them.
And actually, to be fair, in the first half against Mayo, I think Jack McCaffrey had something like 4 possessions or 5 possessions, and Dublin were lacking that drive, and so they changed things around in the second half. So yeah, you could have a point. It's just everything is dependent on every one of those matchups going to plan. And then the thing with Dublin do is that, well, if 1 or 2 of them don't go to plan against them, somebody else just emerges from somewhere and has an amazing game. So
yeah, they've got so many clutch players. But another interesting aspect will be, like Jim Gavin said, there's no doubt during the week, he says there's no doubt at stages of the game you'll see all of the Kerry outfield players behind the ball. That's just modern football. And we know when Dublin get their 13 back, Mayo just played everything through the hand, Conor, and when Dublin had everyone back, while Mayo had some joy in the first half when you're energetic and you'll get a spectacular one out of Shamey O'Shea.
Yeah.
Like, you can't bank on winning a game. You can't rely on spectacular scores. So what Kerry need to do is they need to avoid these hand pass scenario. Kerry can't win that game. This has to be moved through the foot as fast as possible. And with moved it fast and trying to get it inside as fast as possible. And if Tommy Walsh doesn't start, it'll be Clifford left inside in his own like they did against Kerry with Geaney and another out in front. Maybe even Tommy Walsh could play that role of the one left inside, and with Clifford and Geaney standing out in front. Then who does the sweeper mark? Who's going to be the sweeper this time? Because like Kerry's, all their forwards need attention. Sean O'Shea, Stephen O'Brien, you're not dropping off them. Do you know what I mean? And they probably won't go back that far. Gavin White is going to be marking Jack McCaffrey. Who's the Dublin sweeper going to be? Do you know, this is why you give Kerry some puncher's chance, is that they'll occupy all of their defenders, and it's going to be a shootout. It will, weather permitting. This is going to be a shootout. Who can score the most with 2 exceptional forward lines?
Yeah, will Kerry be a little spooked by Dublin's attack? Like, even if you go back to that league game Mannion and O'Callaghan, the two boys from the last day?
Well, the answer to that is yes.
And they got 2 goals just by roasting defenders.
Yeah.
O'Callaghan took a pass 2, deflection in, Mannion just rinsed.
But it works both ways. Like Dublin know they're getting one-on-ones against Kerry. Kerry can't play any other way. Now, obviously, if Dublin are really slow with the build-up, Kerry will drop lads back. Any team that has any brains will do that. But I think the same as Kerry, you're going to practice kick passes. I think Dublin are saying to themselves, they're so well prepared. This is a game where our kicking game is really going to work. And I mean, move it fast through the lines. And when that gets to the half-forward line, I want long diagonal ball. And now Jim Gavin might not even say this privately, but we'll destroy them in there.
Yeah.
And you could see Mannion and Con going to absolute town. Like McShane and Donnelly threatened it, but the 2 lads could do it.
Yeah, because they'll get the ball and take you on then as well.
So why would Dublin not use those diagonal balls that work so well for throwing? They know they'll get the one-on-ones because Kerry shouldn't play a sweeper. I think it would be stupid because they're just going to leave a Dublin player free. Who wants that? Paul Murphy's crap at a sweeper, whereas he can get in somebody's face. He could follow Scully.
So I thought he'd mark Kilkenny, to be honest. Well,
you think
I think
Thomas Sullivan has now become their go-to man marker.
So I had him for Mannion, but
he's too small for Mannion.
Maybe. I think
Foley's going to get we'll get to some Paddy Power predictions in part 2. I think Foley will mark Mannion. I think Thomas Sullivan will follow Kilkenny. Paul Murphy might. Well, it wouldn't be crazy to have Paul Murphy following him.
I just worry, because Harrison struggled with Mannion, and that's one of the best fullbacks in Ireland. I worry about Foley being on. You worry about anybody, but if you're Peter Keane, right? And I know what you're saying, like Kerry trying to score more than them, and they've got a class attack to do that, but are they going to win enough ball to do that? So Dublin will score most of the time, Kerry will score most of the time, but surely Dublin will have most of the ball, so it's a bit of a risk to do that. They have to try and turn them over when Dublin do have the ball. Yeah,
well, the whole thing is turning them over, and we've talked about this, is that Kerry are potentially getting better at tracking your man. And Chris Barrett, I was glad he kind of talked a little bit about this. It's knowing when there's a risky situation, when to leave your man and help out. And Mayo are the best at that. Kerry are still learning that. Dublin are pretty good at it as well. Although Dublin will drop in a sweeper that might help, although Mayo can do that too. But even for Barrett, who's an out-and-out man marker, when do I abandon ship for the greater, the greater good?
And Kerry have come on, even they didn't do it against Cork at all. They were wide open against Cork for strong runners like Rory Dean to go through the middle, and then against Mayo they were really good. And now Mayo were poor that day, but there was definite signs
Mayo didn't move the ball fast.
They didn't, but there was I'm just in kind of defence of Kerry. They recognised kind of danger when it presented itself that day, instead of thinking, right, my man is dragging me out to the the sideline, I have to go with them. So I suppose that gives them some element of optimism. But then I was looking at some of the stats that the Dublin forwards have earlier, and they go for goal 1 every 8 attempts. I think Paul Mannion's up on 76% conversion rate. It's just you can't give these guys second chances. So
I've Shane Enright actually on Dean Rock, but Shane Enright could mark Mannion under Fitzmaurice. Shane Enright was their man marker. And now,
not always great at it. I remember Killian O'Connor taking him for 2-6.
Andy Moran not taken for that time.
He did in the semi-final. Killian O'Connor took him for 2-6 in Limerick, I think, and should have been sent off because of the yellow card, and then didn't get the black card.
Got taken off.
I think Killian got 2-5 that day, and that was before he went off with concussion. So even when he was Fitzmaurice's go-to marker, there was times when he was, for want of a better phrase, he was there for the taking. As you said, Andy, there a couple of years later, I think Shane Enright, he might actually suit somebody with a bit more physicality. But I just thought, because Thomas Sullivan has had an excellent record this year already, I don't think too many people have scored off him. He completely blotted out Peter Hart.
Yeah, but he drifts out.
True.
Tom Sullivan's a half back, so he can do that. He can do that. John Small, I'll torch you all over the field, and if you're drifting, you hate that.
Yeah.
But can you do the corner back? Having to be clued in at every second, you know what I mean? That what Chris Barrett is explaining, having to concentrate for 70 minutes without even thinking of anything else. I'm not sure that I think half-back man markers and it's the same. We talked about your man from Donegal with the triple barrel name, McFadden Farry.
Yeah.
Same thing. Brilliant man marker in the half-back line. Yeah. But as a cornerback, Jesus, I wouldn't mind.
He can even go back to
Kamikaze, same thing. Yeah. It's a different ball game.
And you've less time. When Conor Callaghan gets the ball, he's either going to go for goal or put it over straight away. When a half forward gets the ball, he's turning around, he's looking inside. Then he has to decide whether to run. You've more time to tackle them, put them under pressure.
The big thing is, if you're beside your man when he's drifting around the field, he won't get a hand pass. If you're beside your man the full forward line and he breaks, he'll still get that hand pass. He'll still get the pass because you're expected to be marked tightly. around the middle of the field if you're Mark Titley. Well, I wouldn't give it to him.
Yeah,
there's
and it's
loads of
just
other
moving
there's
you're
loads
in,
of other spare men around, you know.
You don't even give a 70-30 ball around the middle of the field because it's not the right option.
No.
You find the free man.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
as you say, even if it's like, who was it? Sludden against Dublin last year. It's completely like, he's
With
free
Merchant.
to win it. Yeah. But they don't play it.
They won't give it to him.
It's like, he's under a bit of pressure.
That's a very frustrating thing.
Yeah.
Whereas Sludden brought Merchant in the full forward line was marked even a little bit tighter, he'd be getting ball in front. Look, it's up to you to get out in front.
Go win it. Kick the thing in, we'll win it.
Yeah. So that's the dynamic, and that's why I think Thomas Sullivan could be, cleaned out as a cornerback, but as a wing back following Kilkenny, I think he has the speed, he has the engine, and he's gone fairly stocky now as well. I think he might have, well, he wouldn't be at Kilkenny's level yet.
Give him something to think about going forward as well. He's kicked a couple of points
which he could do, which is an important part of that man marking job as well. So, like, I suppose if Tommy Walsh doesn't start, you could see James McCarthy marking David Moran. Right, I could see Moran getting on top of Michael Darmaccauley. No, like Michael Darmaccauley is after coming back this year and having an exceptional year. For someone who was back in the impact sub role, and I thought against Mayo he would be dropped to the bench, but he wasn't. But David Moran is brilliant. He's just brilliant, and Jack Barry's going to mark Fenton. If he will start.
Are you sure about Jack Barry?
Oh, he's going to start.
Even after having very little game time.
Has he played enough? I was wondering.
Well, I think he might play 45 minutes. I think he might play 45 minutes on Fenton, then bring Spillane on and say just dog him out for the rest of the game, and that's the way, to do it. Probably because the perception's out there that he's had Fenton's measure, and he's done well on Fenton. Like, he hasn't beaten him, but Fenton hasn't been as dominating because Barry is prepared to sacrifice his game, and he's a big strong fella. So I don't know. I think Jack Barry is an out and out banker. Tommy Walsh, oh lads, if Tommy Walsh starts, genuine. If you're asking the question, what do Dublin not want? I think that's it. I think it's Tommy Walsh as an option for kickouts. We'll touch on the kickouts quickly. I know we covered it an awful lot last week, but if you're looking at the Tommy Walsh versus Philly McMahon, say, or Fitzsimons, one side of the field, you've got in the middle, you've got Jack Barry blotting out Fenton. The ball's not going to go to Jack Barry. Actually, Jack Barry go to the very other side and take Fenton with him. Right, so your kick-out's going to Tommy Walsh, and David Moran is standing beside Tommy Walsh. So now you have David Moran and Tommy Walsh with the ball coming out, and you're overloading one or two players. Dublin have got their press up, and your ball is going between Tommy Walsh, David Moran, say James McCarthy, and who'd be marking say James McCarthy be on Tommy Walsh, and I'm not sure who'd be on Moran in that situation if James McCarthy or Michael Darmaccauley on Moran. I don't think that's unsurmountable for Kerry to be kicking it out there.
Yeah, Kerry can manufacture these things too. Like that league game, one time Tommy Walsh was being marked by Owen Merchant. Do you know when they was just kicked out to Tommy Walsh, obviously, and they won the ball. So yeah, of all the teams that you want sort of coming into this game to try and have that battle for primary possession, it's Kerry. Yeah,
it is Kerry, and it will be interesting to see. Obviously, with your overload idea, is that some forwards need to get over into that breaking area where they know it's going. But you can't be so stupid as to bring them all over, because then Dublin might realise you have to still leave one or two fellas over there to keep the Howard and the Fenton and these lads still watching the zones.
Some sort of decoy,
some sort of decoy, or else. But if you've two extra men at that breaking ball with Walsh and Moran around, I don't think you've anything to fear too much there.
Yeah, and you don't even have to set up as an overload. Just know from the call that this ball's getting kicked left. And when the keeper's running up to kick it, we've got to jump on our men because we know where it's going. So you should be first in for the break as well if you hold your position and then just drift as the ball.
So Welsh comes out for the kick out, and then like an open play, he's an option alongside Clifford inside. Or he could even be the man breaking, as you said, if not Keeney around the 40.
I think Clifford is a very important player that if Dublin free someone up, they need to cover Clifford.
Yeah.
So I think Walsh and Keeney can get an awful lot of ball. Now, alternatively, if Walsh was in there on his own, would the sweeper be tempted to go in front of Walsh? Now you have Clifford kind of standing out in front with no sweeper. You can't have two. Dublin will never get a situation where there's two fellas free. There's too many forwards to mark. So for that reason,
bringing me around to the idea of starting them, I think anyway.
Oh geez, well I'm very persuasive, Conor, as you know right well. Like I mean, but like that, I think this is what makes it so interesting that Kerry have the tools up front, and Mayo just will never have what Kerry have up front, and that's why you're giving them this puncher's chance. You know, where like Mayo have a lot of qualities Kerry don't have, but they don't have that pure Geaney, Clifford, Walsh, Stephen O'Brien, Sean O'Shea. They just don't have it, unfortunately.
And they only played two up front the last day, so it made it easier.
That's a really important thing, isn't it? For your analysis of their press.
Oh yeah,
not to leave just two up there, because that's silly. leave 4 up there. Then now they have to gamble if they want that big press. And now they're leaving Sean O'Shea and Stephen O'Brien. That's I don't think even Dublin would risk that.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, which nobody ever speaks about, is the Kerry press. Kerry invented this press. That game in 2016, I was at it. You're looking down going, what are Kerry doing? They're the zonal. They started at zonal. They started sacrificing 2 defenders, knowing that they would be back in position probably before the ball got down, because this was such a new tactic. No one would, think on their feet how to go, right, we need to get it on it and drive it down or whatever. Kerry invented this. Dublin have copied this press and maybe brought it on to another level because of the size of their players. But Kerry's press can cause problems as well.
Yeah, Kerry wrote the book on it.
They did. Let's be fair about this, because we talk so much about Dublin's press, is that they didn't invent it, and they didn't invent the zonal either. Kerry invented the zonal.
And I think what I like about Kerry is that they understand what you have to do to beat Dublin. They might not have done it all the time, but they know that you have to get scores. To do that, they need a forward line, and obviously they got a good one to use it. But I know we keep going back to the league, and I know you don't like using the league that much as an example, but I think anybody else wouldn't have won that game. So Dublin came from 5 points down, got it level, and Kerry understood that we have to commit men forward here. We have to take a gamble to get the point. And Gavin Crowley, I think, fisted it over the bar at the very end, goal chance. But they just threw more men forward because that's what you have to do.
I don't think you can ever underestimate the confidence Kerry players have. They're the market leaders.
Yeah.
They've won, how many is it? 37 All-Irelands. Dubliners 28. They wouldn't even a million. They will respect Dublin incredibly, but in the last 5 minutes, Kerry aren't. Obviously, there'll be nerves all the way around Croke Park, but if any team is prepared to put it up to Dublin in the last 10 minutes, Kerry don't worry about Dublin. They, for years, went up and spanked Dublin up there and laughed on the train on the way back down. Let's call a spade a spade. Now, this wouldn't happen this time. In the 70s, Dublin were incredibly strong, and they beat them in 78 when it wasn't expected, then dominated them then after that. And this was with a young Kerry team, with the bomber only coming on, Jack O'Shea, Spillane, all off a brilliant under-21 team. There's a lot of similarities, actually. Dublin had won it in 76, 77, and then Kerry shocked them in 78. With a lot of under-21s.
Yeah.
And then Kerry went on to dominate. Now, that won't happen with the age profile of Dublin's team this time. But I think, I can't obviously relate to this because of the history of Laois. But I know from a club level, the history of Portlaoise and the confidence that gives you that we don't want to lose to them now.
Yeah.
You'd never say that with Laois. It's just an incredible confidence that they will say, we're not going to lose to Dublin. We'll last 10 minutes. That's not when we lose, lads. That's when we win games. And we don't lose to Dublin.
And it might only be league, but a lot of the current team have decent memories of playing against Dublin in the last few years as well. Every other team practically in the country, bar Mayo until the semi-final, would have their memories going up against Dublin. Oh, jeez, we're going to get hammered again today. If they get a run on us, in the first half, oh God, looking at the scoreboard to think how much it's going to be. Whereas these lads they ran them close in Tralee, bet them in the league final only a couple of years ago.
They were spanked last year in Croke Park, I think, in the league. Clifford and the lads were playing. The first half was excellent, and then Dublin
they ran away with it.
Them.
Yeah, I remember
that was the only big one.
They have plenty of good memories as well, and tradition. It'll as you said, you just can't underestimate the cockiness and the confidence that's going to come with them. Even if your mate didn't seem too optimistic at the wedding there last week.
Yeah, for a right cocky individual. Right, we'll come back with Paddy Power predictions, and we'll give our thoughts on how it's going to pan out. Power.
Yep.
Okay. I thought if we kept going there, we'd be kind of overdoing it.
All right, we're good whenever you're ready.
Okay, so this is it, lads. It's crunch time. It's Paddy Power predictions. It's Dublin 1-5, Kerry 5-1, handicap -6, and we're talking this up to being an incredibly close game. Is it fair to say that the smart money is on Dublin not only to beat Kerry but also to beat the handicap that they have beaten every single game this year?
For me, yes.
I'd like to believe that it's not. I think Kerry will stay within the handicap. I don't know if it's that smart. 6,
but I tried that against Mayo, destroyed. I did it twice this year and got it wrong because they've covered it every single game. And it's been the championship of Dublin versus the spread has been one of the best championships of all times, because they close in on it and it's close, and then they end up just beating it on the line.
Yeah, it's very simple. If Kerry can stop 8 players, completely shut them down, then they've got a chance. I don't know. Like I sort of have a bit of confidence because of the league game and because of, you say, the tradition and stuff that Kerry have, and I know that they'll bring something with their kick out for their press and their own kick out to get out, and they have that. Like they have that attack. They've got a punch in them. Like, so I think they will be in the game with about 15 minutes to go. I don't know if they'll be in it with 5 minutes to go, but I think they'll still be close enough.
Yeah, I think for the Kerry kick out that we didn't mention, that going short is just madness. Are we agreed on that? Unless it's like Chris Barrett explained, there's times in a game where a point comes and it's so frantic that it's just a complete waste of energy to be trying to press this. We're too many numbers down. We'll let that go short and we'll drift back, maybe to 45 or whatever. And all that's interesting stuff, because stuff we talk about on the show here, and it's nice to have that confirmation of it by someone who's in the game. Yeah. So these presses that we're all talking about, these can only happen every now and then. After set plays, absolutely. But after, why they can happen so much against Mayo is because, so many Dublin players were committed to attack. Mayo had actually dropping 12 men behind the ball can work against you, because if a point comes from Dublin have their press in place, players already close enough to that zone, their zonal areas, that they're already in position. Do you get me? So dropping this 12 can suddenly mean you're pinned into your half for bloody 10 minutes. Whereas if you don't do that and a point comes from a bit of individual brilliance, suddenly you have a midfielder going short, there's loads of space, Dublin's now you can go short. But absolutely, when you go short, you should be trying to move that ball on pretty fast then.
Yeah, which is obviously very hard to do against Dublin. And the payoff and the risk, I don't think is worth it to going short. Like, how many times does a team concede a stupid goal from trying that little dink out to the D, and how many times do you actually score from winning the ball from there when you have to go past 15 players?
I'd love to see stats on that, that how many scores come from short kickouts and how many scores come from long kickouts. And I'd say you'd be shocked at the results. Outside of Dublin, I'd say outside of Dublin would have a decent rate of cornerback, taps to the cornerback. A lot of teams used to give that to them. But I would say for most other teams, what are you gaining out of this? And I think the penny is finally starting to drop. I think Ryan on Sunday will just lash every single one out. You have every back in position, and you have men manned up on the wall, and you've Fenton brought to one side. Now, Fenton is very good. Fenton is very, very good at reading it and getting across there. Sometimes you see Fenton and he actually catches the ball running crossways rather than actually running straight at it. Now, you need to bring him so far over. Like, sometimes midfielders just stand in the middle, and Mayo sometimes do that. Now he's going reading it and doesn't have far to go. Bring Jack Barry, because the great thing about Jack Barry is that he's still a threat in the air. That what's Fenton going to do? Now, Fenton can say, right, well, I'll go across because Tommy Walsh has been the target, and I'll take Tommy Walsh for this. So, Barry, you can head off. But now you're packing it with 3-on-3 of big men. It's not the end of the world for Kerry.
Yeah, I think unless it's absolutely on, as you said, after a break and play, well, there's nobody in position. I think then if it's on, and if a 20-yard ball short is on, give it. But like, just going through the options that we've talked about for the Kerry kick out, and I particularly, the more I think about it, the more I like that overload option on the one side. You'd want to avoid a situation at all costs for Shane Ryan, where he's in the situation that Robbie Henley was in semi-final. They're just constantly looking at Dublin winning the ball and then butting the ball dead, and he's to look at another kick out again. Play to your strengths. You've got David Moran out there. You could have potentially Tommy Welch coming out, Jack Barry, Jack Sherwood. I don't know who we've mentioned who might start as a kick out option as well.
He might pick up because I think he'll be in around midfield, half back. He'll pick up Howard maybe, and I think he's the other big kind of option.
I thought Jack Sherwood would come in to mark Brian Howard, to be honest, but he's another kick out option as well. So when you have those options out there, and just to avoid, as I said, what happened against Mayo, to avoid any silly situations where like Dublin will get goals without they'll create their own opportunities without you handing them on a plate to them either. So just avoid that by going long, and I think Kerry have plenty of at least to break. I think they have enough options out there at least to break even. So like, why just avoid the hassle of going short in the first place? Just get it out there.
Exactly, we're right. Man of the match quickly. So I've picked Paul Mannion for man of the match. Here's a stat John Fogarty had, which I think is an incredible stat. The number of times a forward has won a man of the match during Dublin's Jim Gavin's 5 finals, 0. Right, so in 2015 Fenton, John Small in 16 the drawn game, Michael Fitzsimons 16 the replay, James McCarthy 17 and Jack McCaffrey 18. that bizarre with the talent they have up front that no forward has won man of the match in since 2015.
Yeah.
So that's why I picked Mannion. Well, I picked Mannion on the basis that I think that Jason Foley will pick him up, and I think he could struggle against Mannion. I think Jason Foley apparently is the fastest player on the Kerry team, which is might surprise you. But he'd have the pace for Mannion. But I don't think his instinct is not. He's not a great defender. I think there's too much football in him actually to be a cornerback marker. I think he came up through the ranks as a fullback, and fullbacks don't have to be as sticky, and he might man that middle at underage because he'd be a big enough fella at that. But in a two-man full forward line against Mannion, could be under pressure now. There could be a change there made early.
Yeah, I think so. I might actually go with Jack McCaffrey again as man of the match.
With Gavin White shadowing him.
I don't think Jack McCaffrey will like that he didn't do much in the semi-final. I think he's got too much pride for that.
Listen, that's the same thing though. The concept is the very same, and I don't understand in soccer. You're playing against Messi, the greatest player that's ever played the game, and you let him drift between the lines. How dumb is that? Like, you've got 11 players, you've had 10 outfield players. There's one of them that tracks his every move, and now he doesn't get these little tappy passes. Yeah. So Jack McCaffrey, I've played wing back, and not bragging or anything, but my reputation as being a good attacking half back meant sometimes teams put half backs on me. Yeah. And I didn't like it. Now my runs, forwards are lazy. They don't track your runs. They let you go. They switch off. The wing back then doesn't. Now, okay, he's not going to score on me because he's just following me, but I'm not enjoying the game because I'm not getting into, those positions. Like, it's not. And Jack McCaffrey's not getting balls when he breaks because there's a man on him. The same concept as being man marked anywhere anywhere around the field.
But if like Messi picks the ball up because you can't leave Iniesta or Suarez or Neymar. Do you know what I mean? Like, so you can't just let them
I don't
go
care
through.
about Iniesta, Neymar, or I don't care. You're not breathing outside of following Messi, and that's it. And at least he's gone out and said, okay, well, the rest of us will go into zones to protect the other lads. But
we'll lose
Messi,
6-0, but Messi won't do anything.
Well, yeah, you'd lose 8-0 if you leave Messi free. No, but there must be a tactic behind. Look, you run a lot of podcasts. You're probably on the football one here. I don't know.
No, and I was just thinking, like, that's the beauty of Dublin as well. Is there's so many good players, so many threats that's how like boys like McCaffrey can come into it then, and McCarthy, because you're worried about the others, and you have to drift. We're talking about Kerry coming in where the danger is, and then as soon as like Dublin have to recycle, bang, Jack McCaffrey's away then as well. That's tough.
I was about to say, I'd say he's probably favourite, but if I had to pick anyone, I'd pick Con. And I know he's up against Tyg Morley, who's probably a good match for him. He's a good defender, he's very physical,
and that's worth the fit. And he used to Mark Kilkenny. But I think Con is probably too dangerous now, and Morley, he's a hardy bit of stuff, and he won't let you down.
No. I just think Con is in such form, and like just like he just has this eye for goal. He's been completely ruthless this year. Everything seems to be going right for him. I had already been impressed obviously before the game against Mayo, but it was just like it was sensational against Mayo. I think he's on a roll, and I think if he gets the right ball, and he doesn't even need much of it, he could really do damage. He's going straight for goal if he gets it, and if he gets a couple again, that could be man the match in Footballer of the Year. So we'll see. Okay, well, listen, this is the moment we've all been waiting for, lads. Paddy Power predictions. Conor, I know exactly where you're going here. Yeah, that'll be Dublin to beat the handicap. Right. I'd say 7 or 8 points. It depresses me I'm really looking forward to Sunday because it's not Ireland final, it's Dublin and Kerry. But it's just every single game this year I've tried to justify Dublin, the handicap being beaten, and like every single time afterwards I was like, what was I thinking? And so this year, this time I hope I'm proven wrong again, but I do think that Kerry or Dublin beat the handicap. It's hard. It is very, very. That's so logical. Yeah. That's usually my analysis. But I'm going to go into fairy tale land, Conan. I'll let you. Well, I wish I could. I'd love to. He's the fantasist here. Yeah. I'm in fairy tale land, and even that's just saying Dublin will win. But they might not win by 6. So I'm just going to go Dublin to win. Yeah, I think Dublin will win as well. I think Kerry will beat the handicap. I think Kerry will cause them all sorts of problems. I think Dublin will be way out of their comfort zone. I think Kerry will score about 312. But I think Dublin will score maybe 119, 120, and I think that could be the in and around that final score. I think that'll be game. But I think there will be a time in the game where it could be,
3-12 to 1. You know, I think Kerry will lead at times in the game, and I think they'll rattle Dublin, and I think Tommy Walsh is a huge part of that. But over 76 minutes with Dublin empty their bench, I can't see Kerry staying with them. I can't, even with the goals, because I think Dublin are going to get goals themselves. You know, so Dublin could be 320 to 312, and then you're right, Conor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very, very hard. It's very hard to stop. But look, that's it. So we're all in agreement. Dublin going to be All-Ireland champions, 5 in a row.
Woohoo.
Look, listen, at the same time, there's nothing but respect for a 5 in a row. Like, I mean, they're fantastic. As neutrals, you just don't want the All-Ireland to turn into Leinster Championship, and there's a danger of that. But anyways, listen, who knows what'll happen. But Joe from Paddy Power is coming up first, and we'll talk to him next. Joe from Paddy Power, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much.
We've hit the big time. We're here.
Yeah, finally.
I don't know, I was saying just before you landed in here that I don't know how everyone's so excited about a match Dublin are 1-5 to win with a handicap of 6.
That was the history of it all, isn't it, really? What are we, 37 years since the last time it was attempted in the football, and back to 2010 since the hurling. So I mean, either way there's going to be history made this weekend, so we're all kind of looking forward to that element of it too. Yeah,
I think that is it. If it wasn't Kerry, we'd be like, you know, but it is Kerry. So come here, talk to me about my bet. We'll start off with that.
Yeah, so
and I'm on a roll here,
yeah,
right?
well, this is it. You're unstoppable now. Probably the right time of the year to be getting good, but we've no more bets left after this one, so maybe not. But yeah, you had the hurling final bet you had came up as well with Shamie Conlon getting the goal any time and Tipperary winning. So this week we've split it. We've put €50 on each, and we've boosted 2 of them for you. So your bets are Kerry half time and Dublin full time. So that was 9-2. That's now been boosted out to 6-1.
Okay.
And Kerry are actually 12-5 to lead a half time on their own, but your one's been boosted for Kerry half time, Dublin to win a full time. And your other one is Paul Mannion for the RTE man of the match. So that was 7-1, and that's been boosted out to 9-1. Paul's a club mate of mine, and he's having a great season. He's an absolute gentleman, but he's the shape he's in now and the size of him and the way where he's come from, even over the last few years, he's getting better every year. So yeah, I think that 9-1 for Paul Mannion for Paul Mannion to be man of the match at the final could be a good shout.
And as I was saying, Jason Foley is still a little bit lightweight as a man marker, so that's kind of factored into it. I think Morley might be a good match for Con, but look, who's to say my matchups are the matchups that happen.
I mean, if Kerry played the way they did against Tyrone and leave that space in front of the full forward line, any one of the Dublin full forward line could be a great shout for man of the match, because they're just so dangerous, and Kerry leave all that space. It could be dangerous for them anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So money back specials.
Yeah, well, it's the one we've been running all year. So your first goal scorer, if he scores a goal any time, you get that money back as a stake.
Okay, brilliant stuff. And what odds Paddy? Hashtag what odds Paddy? I missed out the hashtag there, which is important.
Yeah, it was all about the hashtags these days everywhere you look, isn't it? There's absolutely loads of them on site, but there's a few ones that I picked out. There's some kind of funny ones and some that just could be good bets. So to start there with one of the combined ones we've talked about before. So Dean Rock to score over 6.5 points, so 7 points or more, and Sean O'Shea to score over 5.5, so 6 points or more together is 9-4.
Okay.
Obviously with them being the free takers and being fairly dead-eyed most of the time.
And that's lower than usual for the kind of marksmen, isn't it? Usually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I suppose there's probably an element of, like, if Dean Rock's not having a great game from play, he could always be whipped off regardless of what the score is in the match, and Costello can take over, and Sean O'Shea obviously as well with Clifford hitting someone from the other side and that as well. That kind of plays into it a little bit. But I think on the Dublin side, I think Kerry are probably going to fail quite a lot, because they won't want to let, if the likes of a Mannion or a Con gets a little bit of a head of steam up, I think they'll just be fouling them, because you just can't risk that goal going in. So I think Dean's fairly safe on getting over 6.5, and then Sean O'Shea is obviously a very talented free taker. He hits them from everywhere, so you think he might get over that too.
Okay, and David Clifford and Con to both score a goal?
Yeah, that's in an 11-1. Obviously, Con's been the goal machine for pretty much all of his career. Really, when he gets a sniff, he doesn't wait. He doesn't mess around. He's not one of these hand passing over the bar types that you don't like at all. So if he sees the net, he'll be going for it. And Clifford, I mean, he's just a beast of a man. And Kerry are going to have to score goals. I'd say that's been one of the big key points of their focus this week. Is like, lads, we have to score goals. End of story. If you even get half a chance, you go for it. And Clifford's not an easy man to stop once he gets a turn on you. So I think the two of those together, 11-1, could be decent. And then just on the other what's odds, Paddy, there's some of the better ones, and kind of looking back in history of Kerry to score a goal in stoppage time after the 70 minutes on RTE and to win the game is 22-1. So obviously that's harking back to Derby in 82.
There's no value in that though. Like, I mean, I would say that should be 100-1. Like, what are the odds of history repeating itself there with a goal in injury time to stop the 5 in a row? I'm thinking this is almost...
Well, it's like at the same time, I think people looking at the game are thinking if Kerry can hang around for long enough that the Dubs get nervous near the end, and then they need a goal. You just wouldn't know. And if you've got the likes of big Tommy Walsh or David Moore and hanging around there, even Gainey and Clifford aren't small men themselves, like there could easily be a long ball in and
flick goal. Yeah,
look, it's so probably unlikely to happen, but it'd be amazing if something like that did happen again, and it would finally Kerry could stop moaning about that bloody push in the back anyway if they get one to win it. And then one other thing there is any Dublin player to get a black card in stoppage time after 70 minutes. So once we're in stoppage time at the end of the game, it's 9-2 for any Dublin player to get a black card.
Oh yeah, that's when the rugby tackles come in, right?
Paul Kimmage Cullen's cheats again after he picked up the 5 in a row, but sure, we'll see how we get on.
Okay, so we'll move on to the game here then, and like I mentioned, Dublin are 1-5, Kerry are 5-1, the draw is 14-1, the handicap is 6. Dublin have not lost against the handicap all year. The smart money is for Dublin to repeat that.
Yeah, I guess you'd call it the smart money, but I mean the stakes are at their absolute highs. They couldn't be any higher for Dublin coming into the weekend. Surprisingly, haven't heard too much talk of the pressure of the 5 in a row. I thought Darren O'Sullivan mentioned it during the week there, and I actually thought all the eras down in Kerry would be hyping that up to the absolute limit, but I haven't heard too much about it. In fairness, like to Jim Gavin and the Dublin team, I spent a bit of time in the Under-21 panel with Jim a few years ago. Like he's just the most calmest, coolest man around the place, and I think all week the 5 in a row that might be coming from the outside, I don't think that's going to be an issue for the guys on the inside. Obviously it's there in the back of their minds, but I don't think it's something that's going to affect the Dubs too much this weekend. But yeah, like 1-5, handicap of 6 points in an All-Ireland final against Kerry with so much at stake, it still seems hard to look at it, to be honest with you. Like I think that the handicap would probably be the toughest of the year so far. I mean, there's no guarantees Dublin will get anywhere near winning by 6. I'd snatch your hand off for a 1 point win right now. So
yeah, I don't know. Listen, but at the same time, will you probably say that in any of the rounds? Like, I mean, what have we got for first goal? We have a few different. I think Stephen O'Brien is good value there at 11-1.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So first goal is obviously a fairly popular one anyway, and we have the money back. So Con is the favourite. He was 5-1, and that's just been boosted out to 6-1 on the pair prices there. We have Stephen O'Brien is 11-1, which is, you say, is good value there, and he obviously scored the first one the last day against Tyrone. And then we've got Jack McCaffrey in there at 16-1. He obviously had a very quiet game by his standards against Mayo and Durkin, did all the damage, so I'd say Jack could be absolutely geared up now for a big game this weekend. He's obviously a former man of the match winner in an All-Ireland final as well, and the big days are really good for him. At the same time, Stephen O'Brien and Jack are more than likely going to be meeting each other a lot, so one of the two of them is going to be bursting up and down the pitch for most of it, so there's just a little bit more value in Stephen and Jack. And then on the goals, the decided goals, there's a few other little bets there that Kerry over 1.5, so 2 goals or more, 6-4. Like, you think if they have any chance of winning, they just have to score at least 2 goals. Like, you couldn't see them outpointing Dublin overall in the match, so I think that one could be one to look at definitely. And just on hat-tricks then, very, very unlikely to happen, but Con at 40-1 is 41 for a hat-trick, and David Clifford, if he's to emulate Lar Corbett in 2010 and get a hat-trick from corner forward to steal the 5 in a row, Clifford's 80-1 to get a hat-trick.
Well, I'd have a sneaky euro on David Clifford for a hat-trick. You know, he's a player of his generation in the making. In his first All-Ireland final, stopped the 5 in a row. Like, you wouldn't think it's...
You couldn't make it up.
It's not crazy talk.
You couldn't have made up the last 2 5 in a row beatings between Tip and Kilkenny and Kerry and Offaly the way they happen. So if Kerry should do it, you think there's going to be something amazing will happen. Okay, so man of the match. I was talking about a stat during the show, and in all of Dublin's All-Ireland wins, forward has never won man of the match. So, like, I mean, this is an interesting one. Fenton won it in 15, Small in 16, Michael Fitzsimons in 16, replay, James McCarthy 17 and Jack McCaffrey 18. That's an incredible stat, isn't it, considering the firepower they have? It is. It's hard to believe, really, I guess, when you list them out like that. It's something for every way it happens. I don't know whether it's well, so Mayo has such a good handle on the Dublin forwards in most of those games when they did play in the Kerry All-Ireland final last time. Was a very wet day and it was scrappy, and that can obviously have a bearing on who gets man of the match. But it is a surprise, and to be honest with you, the ones I'd picked out myself, Brian Fenton at 7-1 there is just an obvious candidate that you'd want to back in any game to be man of the match, because he's just such an incredible player, I suppose. But on the Dublin side, there was a bit of value. I picked out James McCarthy at 20-1. He's obviously had his injury issues this year, and he probably hasn't hit the same heights that he has in other years. But again, this is a final. It's James McCarthy. He's an absolute machine of a guy, and you could easily see him having a huge game on the weekend at 20-1 to be man of the match. Then on the Kerry side, Clifford being probably the obvious candidate as well. He's 9-1, and then both Sean O'Shea and Stephen O'Brien are 20-1. Like I think if Kerry are to win
Good
and
value
get
there,
man of the
yeah.
match, one of the two of those is bound to have a huge game as well. So there might be a little bit more value in those two fellas.
Yeah, just to finish up, Player of the Year, Con has it wrapped up, right? He just needs to show up, kick his 3 points from play, which we're sure he probably will, get something like that, and he has it sewn up.
Yeah, I don't know. I was looking at the odds for coming in. Like Con's 15-8 to win Player of the Year. Like I wouldn't have had him that far ahead of the pack by any means. But he's had an unbelievable game against Mayo in the semi-final, and he kicked 1 or 2 incredible scores that kind of stood out over the year. But I wouldn't have thought he was the dominant player this
Against
year.
Ross Common in the Super 8s, he was outstanding.
Yeah, like, Ross Common in the Super 8s. No offense, but like, do you know what I mean? Like, that was kind of a turkey shoot. Like, so
Yeah.
I think the final's going to have the biggest bearing on things, depending on who wins it. And in terms of the dubs, there, Paul Mannion's 11-2 to win Player of the Year behind Con. Like as you said, you're tipping him for man of the match. Like if Mannion gets man of the match in the final, some of the points he's kicked this year, nearly every game, just been a few just absolute incredible scores that you wouldn't see anyone else kicking. So I think he might be good at 11-2, particularly if he gets man of the match at the weekend. And then again, just for the Kerry side, Stephen O'Brien at 10-1. I think if Kerry win, he's getting Player of the Year. End of story. I think like he's been the most important player all year by a mile. In the game they should have lost against Tyrone in the semi-final, he basically pulled it out of the fire for them, in fairness to him. So I think if Kerry win, he'll get Player of the Year 10-1. And then just looking at David Clifford, he is the strongest Kerry candidate in the betting anyway. He's 8-1 for Player of the Year, and he's also nailed on favourite for Young Player of the Year at 1-5.
And after his hat-trick, he could win both Senior Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year.
Sure, look, if he gets a hat-trick, you know, fine, we'll just give him Player of the Decade now and get on with it. Like,
let him retire.
Yeah,
Listen,
that's it.
Joe, thanks very much.
Cheers, thanks very much.
Alright, that's all we have time for. We are back, of course, in Liberty Hall tomorrow night at 7:30, so we'll see you all there. And after that, as usual, it'll be a review show on Monday. Talk to you then. Good luck.